So the IPL 2022, the much awaited IPL 2022 is approximately 24 hours away, very close to the start. In fact, we would be having the pre-match show going on tomorrow between KKR and CSK. Well, in today's segment, in today's live streaming session, there are two aspects which I want to discuss and present. Firstly, is on the new team in the IPL 2022, which is one of the new team, Lucknow Super Giants. I would specifically look at the power play impact of Lucknow Super Giants with the squad that they have. And secondly, we would look at couple of South African women who have performed brilliantly in this World Cup. And India would be having a virtual quarterfinal with them in a couple of days' time. A very crucial encounter for India specifically. South Africa find themselves already qualified for the semi-finals. So, firstly, let's cover the first one, which is the Lucknow Super Giants. Before I come to what I want to share, first, let me explain to you what I mean by power play impact or the impact of power play. So, very in if I put it in plain and simple words, from a batting perspective, the batsmen who make impact in the power play by having a super high strike rates, and they get the team off to a rollicking start, to an absolutely high momentum at the start of the innings. For a bowling power impact, or the bowling power play impact, is when you're picking up wickets, when you're regularly picking up wickets and striking within that first 6 overs in the batting power play, is where you're making an impact with the ball. That's basically what you say when you mention about bowlers making a power play impact. So I am looking at 6 players in the Lucknow setup who will be making an impact both with the bat and with the ball in the batting power play. So, firstly, let me begin with the bowling impact or the bowling power play. Slightly biased towards bowling, but let me start with bowling. And I have the first person that I am looking at, and let me bring up the visual on the screen. And that's going to be none other than a sensation from last year for Delhi Capitals, Avesh Khan. Now, what you see here is two different aspects. Firstly, power play is the first 6 overs, middle phase is over 7 to over 15, the middle phase of the innings, and slog overs, as you know, is over 16 to 20. For what you see in percentage overs is what's the percentage of overs Avesh Khan has bowled within the power play, within the middle phase, and within the slog. And percentage wickets is how many wickets he has picked up at what stage. Why do we need to look at percentage overs? Because the percentage wickets can be misleading at times if you don't look at percentage overs. You need to know how much bowling has been done at what phase and compare that with the percentage wickets. With this, what you see here is very straightforward that Avish Khan has bowled across throughout all the 3 phases. He doesn't really have a very high percentage in any of the specific phases, but you see the wickets. His maximum wickets have come in the slog overs, 42% of the wickets coming in the slog overs. So that's huge because that tells you that although he's bowling across and overs are spread out, those 4 overs are spread out, his wickets are coming at the end, right? So that's on Avesh Khan. The second player which I want to bring up in terms of the bowling is Andrew Ty, who is the replacement for Mark Wood now, right? So let me bring up Andrew Ty, and let me give you a perspective here. Andrew Ty has played a lot of T20 franchise cricket all over the world, but two big franchises which can skew this chart is one is Perth Scorchers for Big Bash in the Big Bash League, and secondly the Kings 11 Punjab, where he played a few years back in the IPL. He was typecasted as a bowler in the slog, and that's exactly what this chart is showing. Look at that, 47% wickets in the slog overs, this orange chart. he's bowling a lot in the back end of the innings, 45% in the middle, 32% in the slog. So hardly, and maybe an over maximum is what he's bowling in the power play. Hence, you see, because of his bowling towards the back end, he's getting wickets there. He's done well. With Lucknow, whether they adopt this strategy with Andrew Ty or not, we will wait and see. But I would assume, because this is his reputation, Lucknow would be doing this. They would be going ahead and using him in the back end and towards the slog overs. Okay. Now I'll show you something very interesting. The third bowler, and it's very interesting because you have two charts. Firstly, you have Jason Holder. The player is Jason Holder, who adds balance to a side because he's an all-rounder. So you have Jason Holder playing for Sunrisers Hyderabad as an IPL record, and then you have Jason Holder playing for Barbados Trident in the CPL. Two different charts, and you will see a complete difference in the two. Have a look. First, I will show you Jason Holder as Sunrisers Hyderabad. Have a look at this. This looks pretty much similar to what we saw with Avesh Khan and Andrew Ty. You will see that half of his wickets for Sunrisers Hyderabad have come in the slog overs. However, he's bowled quite a bit in the power play, but hasn't got that much of a reward. So 40% overs, but only 19% wickets. But look, the slog overs, he would have bowled over or two, let's say on an average, but he's picking up half of his wickets there. So in the IPL, Jason Holder has been performing well in the slog overs, which is not too different from what I just said for Avesh Khan and for Andrew Ty. But have a look at this upcoming visual, which is very interesting. This is Jason Holder for Barbados Trident in the CPL. This is a completely skewed chart which tells you 60% of his overs in the power play and two-thirds of his wickets, 67, in the power play. Now that's a complete different, trend or complete different shape of this graph for Barbados Trident against Sunrisers Hyderabad. For a bowler to pick up wickets in the power play, will Sunrisers Hyderabad pick up use Jason Holder in that power play session, or will he be used in the let's say back end of the innings like they would do for Andrew Ty or maybe Avesh Khan? So that's going to be a very interesting thing to watch out for, if in terms of the thinking of the Lucknow Supergiant think tank. Gautam Gambhir and management will be thinking how they would try to get that impact and get those wickets in the batting power play. And we have a question from Shashank. Thank you, Shashank, for joining in. Firstly, what's your opinion on Deepak Chahar's injury and how will it affect CSK? Very good timing for this question as well, because I just showed you the chart of Jason Holder, and I am pretty sure if we look at the similar thing for Deepak Chahar for CSK, we will find a similar situation where his bulk of his overs are at the top and hardly one or two overs, maybe very rare over at the back end. And he would get all his wickets in the front, swinging the new ball. His forte is to swing the ball, and that's what he has done for years together now for CSK and partially also for India whenever he's played in the T20Is. But he has showed that ability to bowl in the slog overs of late. But what we have largely seen is that he's bowled up front, and it will impact CSK. So if Deepak Chahar is unavailable for a big chunk of the time during the IPL, you will definitely see that they will have to find apt replacements to fit and get that strike power in the power play, which Chahar used to provide quite consistently for them. So they need to find that replacement in terms of the execution. They would have the plans, they would have the resources, and they would have the squad. How you perform on the field, how you execute will be crucial for CSK management to turn that around. So thank you so much, Shashank, for that question, and hope that answered your question, because your question was very apt to the topic which we were discussing. So we've seen the batsmen now. We've seen the bowlers now. Now let's have a look at the batsmen. So in the batsmen, we will see the what are the strike rates in the power play. In the power play, how these batsmen are scoring as a trend in the IPL. So we know KL Rahul being the captain, he might most probably open. Quentin Decock might be his partner potentially, and Manish Pandey would most definitely be playing in the top three or top four, which would mean that he would have a role in the power play to be played. So let's look at these three players. Firstly, let me show you KL Rahul, and there is a very big trend that you would see, which is been a talking point in most of in most of the situations. So this is KL Rahul. KL Rahul strike rates in the IPL power play in the first 6 overs. Have a look at what's happening in the last 3 years, and this has been a talking point in social media everywhere, or even when you analyze the game. He look at his strike rates back in 2016, 2018, and then look at his last 3 years. In the batting power play, strike rates of 120 means you're going about 7 runs and over. You're basically playing an anchor, a sheet anchor role. That's exactly what he was doing while playing along with Mayank Agarwal for Punjab. And now, when he is playing for Lucknow, will that still be the strategy for Lucknow Super Giants, where he will still play the anchor role, or will he adopt a different approach and he would turn back the clock to what happened in 2016 2018, where he was the enforcer, he was the aggressor? Striking at 140 160 would definitely mean you're off to a flying start. Number two, let me show you Quentin Decock. Quentin Decock, very consistent, very steady. This is his IPL strike rate in the power play. It consists of three teams. He's initially in this initial period, he's played for Delhi Daredevils back then. He's played one season for RCB in Bangalore, this 122. And then in the last 3 seasons, it's been Mumbai Indians. So it's a combination of three teams, but essentially IPL power play strike rate. And what you would see is that he's consistently been in that 130 mark, which means he's scoring at about little over 8 runs and over, which is a quite a decent strike rate to have in the power play. Last season might be a slightly blip, which you would see 119, but otherwise he's been a consistent performer, and Lucknow would definitely vouch that this continues for them, for the number of games that he's available for whenever he starts playing the first game from Lucknow after he finishes the series against Bangladesh. Okay, the third one which I'm referring to is Manish Pandey. Manish Pandey, have a look at this 2019 2020. He was playing for Sunrisers at this point, and look at that exceptional 162 and 156 in the power play. However, generally, if you look at the past and if you look at last year, he has not been that enforcer in the power play. He has kind of played a similar sort of role, what I explained for KL Rahul, just rotating strike and playing a sheet anchor role. Now, within this Lucknow setup, is he going to be one of the player who would take the momentum or build the momentum or take the team into a flying start in that power play? History says, stats says he isn't the guy, but he is also shown in a couple of seasons that he has. So it'll be very interesting to see how that pans out for Lucknow Super Giants. We saw the bowlers, we saw the batsmen, six players who could possibly make a very big impact in the power play, and that's why this is one of the crucial aspects of how the management thinks about how they want to proceed. We have another question from Shashank, which says, do you think KL Rahul's strike rate will be a problem, and will it affect QDQ? And the way he plays as Rohit Sharma, who was his previous partner, was wildly different. Again, a brilliant point. So, as we saw, KL Rahul's dipping strike rate in the last 3 years in the power play, and the consistency of Quentin Decock's strike rate over the 5-6 years that he's played IPL, it definitely can put the opposition or his partner off, where the partner would have to be a little bit more aggressive than his usual self. But what Lucknow Supergiant would teams would really hope for is that Rahul ups his game and becomes an equal enforcer with Quentin Decock or whoever opens. Most likely it should be Rahul and Quentin Decock, but whoever opens with him, he plays that role of an enforcer, and then accordingly that becomes the number one flying start that Lucknow needs, either chasing a big score or while setting a target and playing a big, setting a big total. So yes, it can have an impact, Shashank, but let's see how the approach changes. It's a new management, a new setup, a new strategy would be developed. Hopefully, so hopefully these graphs, what we see for KL Rahul dipping down, will show a big blip upwards positively uh, for uh, for for his IPL career, and we saw what he did in the T20 World Cup as well. So I'm hoping and assuming that that takes a reverse jump upwards, right? All right, so that was about Lucknow Super Giants power play impact. Do let me know how do you what's your comments, and what's your suggestion, what you feel about this analysis and the Lucknow Super Giants team who's going to make a debut in the next few days, playing their first game in the IPL. The second topic which I want to quickly cover is on the India versus South Africa in the Women's World Cup. It's become a virtual knockout for India. As I said, South Africa has qualified. Now, there are two, three very standout performances for South Africa in this tournament. If you remember, the first four games or so, they won everything. Some of them were really close finishes, which they were able to get over the line. So, in that sense, so there are three, four big impact. Let me show you one of them, and I'll quickly share my screen for that, which is the opener, Laura Woolward. Now, she is having a golden run in this tournament. She's the second highest run scorer in the World Cup right now, in the current World Cup. But she also has had a very good run before the World Cup as well. She's averaging 45 in her career overall, and her strike rate is about 67. But this year, that's bumped up to 52. Now she's averaging about 52. Now remember, averages sometimes gets bloated up because if you're not out. In her case, in Laura's case, she has an average of 52 by not being not out. So that means that shows her consistency, and that shows her class. 52 per innings is absolutely magnificent. And her strike rate also, you can see a very big jump this year versus normally how she strikes throughout her career. So very important to see how she goes about in the match on Sunday for South Africa. As you know, they've qualified, so may not be a very high pressure game for them, but definitely being an international game, they will always be uh, on top of it and in the highest and the top focus and mindset. But for India, it's absolutely a knockout sort of a game, and they definitely need to win it for having or entertaining any thoughts of getting into the semi-final. Two other players, one is on the bowling Khaka, she has, and also on Ismail. They have picked up 2 wickets per game every single game in 2022. So that's really a very big danger for the Indian batsmen to watch out for. 2 wickets every single game is a phenomenal record to have anywhere. So that's how they have performed this year, both of the seam bowlers, and not to forget the all-round skills of Cap. She also has been magnificent with the bat, magnificent with the ball. Some games she has won it on her own using her all-round skills. So it'll be very interesting to see how the Indian team face up against these classy South African players, red hot form, and we will be able to understand how the tournament will flow for a big match coming on Sunday morning India time versus South Africa. So, hope you enjoyed today's session. Please keep tuning in for more such sessions coming up. Please subscribe and please do share wherever you feel we have like-minded interests. And let's have a very good weekend. And let's talk and connect very soon. Thank you and have a good day. Bye bye.